and welcome to the Remembering and ReEnchanting podcast. My name is Sara Jolena Wolcott, and I am your hostess on this sacred learning journey of unraveling, unveiling, and becoming more fully alive at the end of the world as we know it. In this podcast, we offer up to you, dear listener, 3 forms of episodes to support your journey of remembering and reenchanting. First, conversations with amazing people. Second, storytelling. And third, myth casting. In this episode, we're going to bring you a conversation between myself and another amazing, fascinating leader in the areas of remembering and reenchanting. Hello, and welcome to the Remembering and Reenchanting podcast. I am your hostess, Reverend Sara Jolena Wolcott, and I am so delighted to be joined today with Nova Scott James. Nova, thank you for joining us.
Yay. I'm so happy to be
Yeah, a mutual friend of ours has sent me this clip for this film that you are currently working on, the Wild Darlings, out of the Wild Darlings collective. Wild Darlings Sing the Blues, and it's a song of freedom. And it was one of the more, I was just so moved by this little tiny clip, and I immediately was like, oh, we had to have a conversation on the podcast. So we're going to get into the film in some point soon, but before we do so, I thought it'd be really wonderful to ground ourselves and to just start with like you and a little bit about your who you are as a mystic, as an artist, as a filmmaker, as a spiritual being navigating complex realities. And I'm wondering, like, when you start, because I think a lot about origin stories and remembering. When you think about what origin stories for your own life or for this work, where do you like to begin? And I'm sure you've thought about, like, as a storyteller, I'm sure you've thought about where do you begin stories a fair amount. And I'm like super curious, where do you like to begin stories about how this whole work is coming about?
Thanks. That's a great question. And as I was listening to you, I was feeling into how to answer that. And one of the first things that comes up um, is my first childhood memory, which is actually of a snake. I was sitting on the carpet. I was at Morningside Montessori on the Upper West Side. The teacher turns the page of, this book with illustrations, and there's this snake, and I was like, whoa, like, what is this creature? And it felt like the most familiar thing in the world, obviously, going beyond, my 4 years of being alive at that point. And yeah, so that comes up. I also fell in love with, beyond storytelling, like film specifically. Like, I was in love with film as a child. It was so enchanting, so magical. Um, my childhood was full of so many intense challenges and a lot of violence and a lot of struggle. And film was this just like portal of creative genius that I could go play in. Also, music did that for me. My parents are pretty music obsessed people.
Mm.
My dad constantly had jazz playing, and also jazz became this portal that I would go through, and the music is so complex, and it really soothed me a lot of the time. Um, and then I could see and communicate with spirits since I was a young kid. That really like marked my childhood and my whole life. But just speaking of childhood years, so those were kind of the things, like this pull towards movies, seeing spirits, talking with them, that exchange just being like really natural and like every day. I understood that it wasn't necessarily for everybody an everyday thing. Like that kind of clicked relatively early on. I want to say around like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something. Probably more like 10. I was like, "Oh, okay, like that's not that's out of the out of the norm for a lot of people." Um
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not a lot, but some. Um so yes, spirits, ancestors, movies, and jazz. That
And snakes.
and snakes. Yeah.
I love that snake image. I'm just like, has that stayed an important um character and like companion for you in either in life or in symbol or in art?
Totally. Less in my art. I've been trying to bring it in more lately to play with, but
Uh-huh.
when I found that like for example, I did a dark room retreat last year,
Mhm.
2024,
Mhm.
in it was March or April of last year, and it was a very intense journey, just at a lovely retreat center, pitch black. They gave me meals through a little you know, light proof box twice a day. And I was in there for 4 days, and it became a very intense, a pretty shamanic meditation. I mean, sometimes I was doing self-inquiry practice and meditation, other times I was chanting and praying, other times I was just really cracked open and crying. But I say all of this to say that the snake really showed up as this like guiding light and really force of
Mhm.
wisdom in that journey. And
Mhm.
so, and it's not constant like every week or something, but um, maybe every couple months or few months there's like a snake message that emerges. So,
Mhm.
mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. The snakes have played um, a continual role in my own journey as well, so I understand that the ways that they sinuously come into our lives and sometimes leave again and then come in again.
Mhm.
uh, they, yeah, it's a very powerful. Hmm.
Such a powerful energy. this
Mhm.
this particular creature teacher. Yeah.
Mhm. 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 And as you were talking about the jazz and the music, I'm curious, like, how do you understand your own lineage? And I'm saying that because I'm asking this question in part because I think about this a lot. As for those of us who are remembering our lineages, that we may or probably we might not have fully grown up with them, um, but who are kind of putting the pieces together. Like when you look at the artistry, both as a filmmaker and as a I don't know how you if you do you see yourself as a spiritual innovator or as just as a seeker?
For sure. I like that. term, spiritual innovator. that, that totally resonates. um, yeah, I would say seeker resonates too, but um, yeah, it's so interesting. I'm like, what's the language or spiritual practitioner? I mean, spiritual innovator. Um,
Mm,
that that feels true. Uh,
mm,
I Yeah, in terms of lineage, that's such a great question to be with. Um, and it's funny because the first couple things that come up, I mean, my my great grandmother on my mom's side, uh,
mm,
to New York, migrated to New York from North Carolina
mm.
to Harlem. And I grew up in Harlem. So that's kind of one of the most immediate things is like I'm really I'm really there's it delights me to have this um to be from a family of New Yorkers. Like
Mm,
New Yorkers are just I think New Yorkers are so um sweet and friendly. Like definitely no bullshit, but like people say New Yorkers are like mean, but that's not true at all. Like um it's such a there's so much friendliness in that city. But there's also like a toughness
mm,
and a grit that I'm really grateful for. Um of course, people can harden in a way that's not nourishing. But that aside, there's also a grit that's like really powerful
mm,
and yummy and just has and like fierce, maybe that's the word. And I think part of that fierceness, part of it comes from like just the magic and energy of New York. Part of it is the magic of Harlem. I feel
mm,
deeply connected to the Harlem Renaissance.
mm,
And even since I was a young person, I felt that. Um, and when my grandma was in Harlem, great grandmother, um, Nella May, she was making hats, like these really cool, like kind of avant-garde hats, like very art.
mm,
Not all of them. Some of them were more, basic and kind of for more practical. Um, but some of them were just like, you know, that was really her artistry. And um, she was apparently connected with James Van Der Zee, the photographer. Supposedly there's this photo out there of her that he took that I've never seen, but maybe one day somehow magically I'll be able to find that. Um, but yeah, I'm so in love with Harlem. I talk about this with people all the time. And so I feel like in my own art, that's one of the strongest like anchors
mm.
and like um what's the word that I was gonna say through lines, but it's less of even like a thematic through line and more just about like, you know, like you're saying, lineage and the energy of that, right? Like all of my work isn't like topically about Harlem. That would be
Right.
so like boring to me.
Right.
And
Right.
even yeah, and like yeah, anyways, I was gonna go off on a whole tangent, but yeah, the that's the first thing that comes out.
Right. And with that, there is music there, and there is writing, and there is photography and visual arts. And spiritual practices and spiritual innovation. Like I'm just thinking of all the things that are in Harlem, right? And survival and thriving and redefining, like, right, redefining what it means to be human from what someone else tells you it is, or from what larger society says. Being human looks this, and this. And then like Harlem's like, actually, we're going to define this for ourselves in our own way. Like I think of some of that, like when I see what you've done, I see some of that like energy, right? That kind of like we're going to self-define this for ourselves, what our own healing looks like, kind of power.
Exactly. Yeah, I really appreciate that reflection.
So you're carrying, like, yeah, so you're bringing these very powerful lineages. You get really excited and into the portals of filmmaking. And you write at one point in this beautiful essay about working in the cinema as a young person, working um, in a movie theater, and like coming to see the movie theater as a temple. And I think that for film people, this is so true. You know, for people for whom film is their uh, creative medium and access to like the more than human, the human and more than human in the artistry world. Like that's so true. And just like, can you like, can you tell us like how you came to understand like or had this experience of the movie house as a kind of temple?
Yeah, I'm thinking for a moment how that came to be. It's funny because when I started working at the movie theater, it was my first, one of my, pretty much my first job out of college. Right after college, I had had a summer internship. Um, but that was a different kind of random thing. But then I got this job, and it also, around the same time, I was just deepening in my spiritual practices, but also like I really I was coming to realize what it meant to take practice really seriously.
Mm,
Um I had been like deeply spiritual person, you know? Um and in college a lot of my spiritual experiences involved a lot of hikes and being in nature and psychedelics. But then out of college, I started to do um I started practicing Buddhism. I had been
mm,
studying a little bit in college, but I started meditating and chanting. So, and I bring that up because it's exactly when I started working at this movie theater. So those things are happening at the same time, which I think I didn't even, I mean, I've reflected on this a bit, but um, I'm reminded how connected those two things are. And yeah, at first having to, take care of the theater and clean up popcorn spills and all these messes on the bathroom and taking people's tickets. I mean, taking people's tickets was easy, but the cleaning, I actually I had like a mild aversion to it. And it's cool. I think it's cool actually, like for any of us, if we have an aversion to something, like there's really something there for you to like, there's some like
mm.
there, you know? Like if you let it, or if you want it to be, there's actually some like brilliant gold nuggets and nourishment like through that aversion. And there can be such a knee-jerk reaction to like set things up such that we don't have to deal with the aversion, like even let the feeling in. So anyways, the bathrooms were, yeah, gross and smelly. And yeah, part of me resisted the cleaning. And I think that that resistance also was like a doorway to me realizing that I actually had so much reverence for cinema, and that I could clean and have that reverence be present.
Mm,
And I guess I can't tell you the moment I like realized that, but there was a distinct shift. And I guess it was just being there day after day. You know, I worked there for 4 years, and it's funny. I want to say now, as I'm feeling into it more, you know, there like cinema for me, like it's really like blissful. Like
mm,
it's just that like I like it or I love it, which I do, but like it's like really blissful. And so I think the more I was there, I got to like soak up the bliss of like going to
mm,
watch films multiple times a week.
mhm,
And so there was like just so much joy.
mm,
I think that just like kind of accumulated, right? Until suddenly, you know, I'm cleaning a smelly bathroom, you know, mopping it or whatever. Tiny bathroom. It's not like it was the, you know, so hard, but unpleasant in a certain way. But suddenly I'm doing that and I'm just so excited about the film I'm gonna watch in 3 hours
mm.
that, you know, I don't care anymore. Um, yeah. I don't know if I answered that exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, like, it isn't it any I mean, these things so often are not sometimes they're precise moments, but, like, so often it's like that it's a practice, that's the point, right? And, like, that shift, and I love talking about, like, this for you, the cinema was blissful, and I think that actually helps explain, like, 'cause I feel that bliss when I watch some of what you've created, that you've been able to pull other people into that space, which I think is really but the camera can be really intimidating. It can be really hard to work with. It can be like it can really put people off. And like you're doing work where the camera is very intimately involved with this like group of people. Um and in very intimate and personal and spiritual spaces, which is like, you know, a lot of people kind of like, yeah, shy away from it. And I'm kind of guessing maybe some of your own reverence for the medium probably helps others enter into a space of being able to be with the camera and share these very, very intimate personal moments with this thing.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. Hmm.
So you created mini films over time, obviously, and I encourage people to go and check out your website, which will have links to kind of learn and like kind of see little bits of these different films. And kind of wondering where does the story of this particular film come start from? And how did this particular film, which is quite unusual, right? Like I don't know anything else like it out there. Wild Darlings Sing the Blues, and it's a song of freedom, of this journey that this group of women take uh, to a um, land that used to be a plantation to engage with your own healing journey in that space. How does that how does that happen? How does that begin?
How does that begin? Well, you know, I think it really began, it was born out of my own healing process. That's for sure.
Mm,
Um,
Mhm.
I so to touch on it a little bit, my childhood, um, like I said, was so rough, so violent. There was sexual abuse that I had to deal with from family members, from teachers in my elementary school, on the Upper West Side, and middle school as well. Finally, when middle school ended, all of the violence ended, thank God. Um,
Mm.
and this it's such a common story and it's not talked about enough. And I'm clear that I'm here to help people heal
Mm.
and do that through art and film and do that through supporting people and coaching and
Mm.
supporting their creative practice and process. And um the honestly, for a long time, most until I was about 22, I did not think I was going to live past 30. I'm
Mm.
32 now. Um
Mhm.
because I had dealt with suicidal ideation for so long and it was so painful, and I also had joy in my life. It wasn't like an everyday thing, but it would
Mhm.
kind of come and go with different seasons. And it was rough. I mean, really rough. And certain things, well, I want to share that for context. But then when I was
Mhm.
22, um, I got into a relationship with this guy that was like so toxic, just like
Mm.
uber toxic. Um, I had There was a lot of trauma that I had not processed of my own. He had a tremendous amount of trauma that he had not processed, so it was just really a painful and chaotic mix. Um, and at that time, the the suicidal ideation increased for me. So it got really, really bad. Like it was really a crisis. And I ended up, um, of course, I had been dealing with, severe PTSD. I did not have that language for that at all.
Mhm.
And I ended up doing um, psychedelic assisted therapy as intensive trauma therapy. And it
Mm.
really saved my life. I mean, I'm
Mm.
so grateful. Um, it's such brilliant and effective treatment for PTSD. And since doing that, I have not the suicidal ideation like dissolved, it transmuted, right? Like I'll have times of feeling younger parts of myself, but
Mhm.
I'm so in love with life. I mean, like just the amount that I've healed, like really is it's mind-boggling to me. I mean, it also makes perfect sense, but um it kind of still blows me away sometimes. Um and that process, just to because I want to answer your question of where the film was born from. That process, this intensive trauma therapy, I started when I was 22. It lasted about a couple of years, like very intensively, um, working through all of this. And finally, at the tail end of those 2 years, things started to settle. Like I started to integrate because the 2 years, it was integration of a whole lot of pain and violence. But then I had all this information, like it was overwhelming. Of course it would be. And so then then I started, honestly, kind of really started the healing process after I
Mm.
brought all the information up to the surface. And I got out of that relationship. And so I had this like new space. And I really just, it was the first time I took like a firm step in like a truly like powerful healing process. Not that I do want to affirm doing the psychedelic therapy was so brave, hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, that was a powerful step in the right direction, but a lot of that felt like me crawling, like, like really, like just had, like, it was just so hard, but like crawl by crawl. But then at the completion of that, I took a step, and it just so happens around this same time, it was October 2017, my grandmother, Lulu, on my mom's side, passed away. And in like digesting her passing, it's later, it's so connected because I was sitting at one of my mentors, um, and dear friends and um, collaborators and supporters of my work. I'm sitting in his home in Harlem, which is a beautiful like movement space and art space and kind of home gallery, really special portal. And I just like have this like epiphany. Like it felt like I was seeing like walls of hieroglyphs was this felt sense of
Mm.
it. It was a
Mm.
lot of information.
Mm.
And I remember I like turned to him and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this thing. I start like, like I'm just like, and there's this, and there's a woman hanging from a tree, and there's this ritual, and we're on the plantation, and this and this and this. And he was like, wow, okay. Like he's just like, kind of holding space. Um, and mind you, this is like within like weeks of my grandma passing.
Mm.
I
Wow.
I really it took me, I don't know, maybe a year to just fully get like, oh, like grandma gave me this. Like she handed it.
Totally. So I'm just like thinking about that lineage, right? Like, so was this grandmother like from the great grandmother who had moved to Harlem? Was it the same like mother? Is it the same line?
Mhm.
So her grandmother probably would have been on a plantation. Am I guessing that correctly?
It's so interesting. Her grandmother, I have photos of her. This really trips me out. And sometimes I get bummed that I don't have as much um family history as I want, but then I got to step back because I actually there's quite a bit that I do have, and
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
it's really a gift. So I really want to be with that reframe. Her grandmother Bard, who I have photos of, and I also have one photo of Bard's mother,
Oh
Nellie.
my goodness. That's incredible.
Mhm.
That's incredible.
Nellie, when I see Nellie Mae, I know she was a spiritual practitioner. I literally
Mm.
see it in her eyes. It's
Wow.
so wild. Yeah. Yeah. And so I of course keep her photo, the one that I have on my ancestor altar. But and I yeah, so Bard, the photo of Bard, I don't know. I think they were in North Carolina. And I actually don't know so much about what her life looked like. I know that all of the women in that line have very, very light, fair skin. to the point that my grandma, like during a process of desegregation, she got a job somewhere as a typist. And a woman came up to her and said, like, did you hear there's a colored girl here now? Like, so,
Oh,
like,
wow.
so I think, you know, Black people know she's Black. And then, of course, some non-Black people also recognize that. But there's also people who um, took her
Who
for
didn't know?
white. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
and her, yeah. So her mother, my great grandmother, just as fair skinned, and then on and on. So, it leaves me curious about, yeah, what did Bard have to work on a plantation? I should find that out. I'm sure someone in my family knows that. Yeah.
Mm.
But of
Mm.
course, I mean, at some point my ancestors were absolutely, in forced labor on plantations. Um my dad's side, interestingly, and it's so, I feel like it's a thing that is not so commonly talked about in Black families. It's like people don't want to go back there. And then here I am, right? And in a lot of ways, I'm like totally a Black sheep of my family. They love me. They respect my work. It's so precious actually, because I think they see the power in my work, whether it's film or spiritual work, but it's also like so foreign to them. Um,
Mhm.
but my dad's side, yeah, like, I've never, I've never heard anyone in my family on either side talk about like our ancestors on a plantation, like specifically where they might have been, right?
Mhm.
But my dad has talked about, not a ton, um, but I'm grateful that he has it at all, because it's very important to know that his grandfather was hung by the KKK, I believe, in
Mm.
Mississippi.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and I mean that what a what a horror and a tragedy. So yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So I guess I bring that up because, just I'm sure there were, of course, many more atrocities on plantations, horrific
Mhm. Mhm.
violence. Um,
Mhm.
and, I don't have access to the specifics of that information as they relate to my, my bloodline, though, of course, I've done research and read about life on plantations, and always, I'm connecting to these stories as stories of my ancestors and my people, even if I don't know the um specifics of, yeah, exactly who in my family was enslaved, and where and what years. And part of that is just, the sheer dehumanization, and the records, um yeah, there are records kept for in the way that someone would record their property and money, but not, people's life stories and lives being honored.
Hello, Remembers and ReEnchanters. Just so that you know, Nova and I recorded this podcast over 2 different recording sessions. My editor, Michael, then came in and stitched the 2 sessions together. I think overall, it really works well as one whole podcast, and I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed making it. So in our last moment together, we kind of left off right as you were having this moment with your elder or mentor in Harlem, and you received this sort of, shall we say, I don't remember what the phrase you used, if you called it a download, but like this kind of vision of what this film was going to look like. And I'm kind of hoping like today you can just like take us through that journey. And what was this film, what was that vision and how did this come to be? And what about the making of the film and the film itself that you would really like people to know about? How does that sound?
No, that sounds perfect. Yeah.
Great.
Should I dive in there?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, what was the initial understanding, or I don't know if understanding of vision's a better
Mhm.
word.
Well, no, understanding is good because I mean, it was clearly a lot of information. More than I knew I could possibly understand in that moment. Like I was very aware of that. Um, and it did feel a lot of it was also really clear. I was like, oh, like I could feel I could see and feel like having this group on a plantation doing praying over the land and doing a land blessing and how healing that would be um for all of us there and for so many people to get to see that in a film, right? Like that it could go beyond us that were participating on the land by filming it. And I I love making films. I love it so much. I'm obsessed with it. I was telling my boyfriend the other morning, I want to start running, but I've never been a runner. The only time and I happen to know I'm a like relatively fast runner, and I did run as a whole side note here. In college, I played rugby for 3 years, and it was so much fun, and I got to feel so strong in my body, and it was a blast, and also come into my queerness, being on that team, like, totally offered me that, um, and, um but sorry, what I'm getting to is that it, like, got me to I exercised more on that team than I have in my whole life because except for maybe, like, yoga intensives and trainings that are, like, month-long things here or there, but, because we had practice, 2, 3 times a week, games all the time, um, but I have this desire to run now, and I don't know myself as, like, a runner, quote, unquote. And then this idea came up. I was like, "Well, what if I, like, film myself just, like, as I'm doing it or right before, just talking about, just like it's like journaling, but a video, you know?" And I got excited about it, and I was like, "Oh, that would actually get me to run if that was a part of it." So, um, I say that to say, right, like, the healing aspect and the prayer and spiritual practice aspect of the Wild Darlings Collective in and of itself is like, is needed, deeply needed. Um, I see that it's needed in as I look out in the world, but I also like deeply needed it.
Mhm.
And and I trusted that. And I also trusted like, oh, if I deeply need this, there's got to be other queer Black women who feel similarly, like there just has to be. Um, and And then, yeah, I think just touching into like this little anecdote about running and filming and rugby, like filming it, yeah, was a way to get to share it, which felt like part of the mission, and just like this has to be shared beyond us writing about it or talking about it. Like I want to bring people into that experience. And then two, it's fun, right? Like the bringing this other layer of just a creative process that's so collaborative. It's just really yummy and juicy, and so that infused everything um with like light, really, honestly.
Mm, mhm, hmm. And so how did you bring those folks together? Like when you first started talking to people about the idea of bringing a group of queer Black women to this a Southern plantation, like how did people respond, and what was yeah, what was the process of kind of bringing this collective into a collective?
I think honestly, I feel like most of the women and folks that I asked and invited were excited about it and interested. Um, Initially, well, the group kind of had stages. Like there was a first stage. Interestingly, the first two women I invited, um, Timmy and Jay, have remained members this whole time, and have just um yeah, contributed so much. And now being in the edit to like get to look at their scenes, and it's really super moving and really special. Um and yeah, maybe Jay was the first person I invited, who is my one of my best friends in the whole world from high school. Uh we met, we were 13. It was the first day of high school. I think she asked me on a date, or she was like flirting with me because she was flirting with all the girls, far and wide, because that's Jay. And but then like I was just like, oh, this person's amazing. I don't want to, you know, go out with you. Um, but there was such yeah, we're just such kindred spirits, and like soulmate is the sweetest thing in the world. Um, and yeah, Jay works medicinally with marijuana. They're a gender expansive person, and the way that the way that they dance with expressing their gender is like it's such an inspiration, honestly, and such a joy and delight to witness. Um, and it's cool to have seen, they've kind of always been the same, but of course, as we all do, they've had a major evolution of spiritual evolution and style evolution. But just to see, like, what I mean by that, I mean the same in the best way, that like they were just so gender fluid when we were 13, 14, in a way that a lot of our peers weren't. So like that's a pretty bold thing to do, you know? Um, and and I guess, I mean, we were in Harlem, New York City, and in a lot of places, even in Harlem, but then also in just many other places around the world that could warrant violence, bullying, different kinds of danger. But I mean, New York being um, such an open place in many, many ways. They just moved how they wanted to move. And I wonder, and they they just they command they truly, truly, truly command that you like meet them where they're at because they meet everybody where they're at. And so somehow I feel like I witnessed that like um when you're in Jay's presence, and I'm kind of more thinking now like when we were 13, 14, um in high school in Harlem, like because I wonder like um well, not to go off on like too many tangents, but like there's just such a uh really powerful um ownership of how they want to play with gender. It's such a play, right? It's so not um fixed. So that was a long celebration of Jay. But Jay was the first person I asked to be in this collective, and so that's like that's really significant that this was like my first collaborator in this. And also I've organized um I only realized this in the past few months somehow, but I have been like consistently organizing collectives since I was like 15 or something. And
Mm.
Jay, first my film club in high school, then my film club in college, then out of college, Jay and I and some other high school friends and some college friends too, created this group. I don't remember if I said this before, but Alien Revolutionaries Igniting Social Equity, Arise, we called it. So it's really relevant that Jay and I came out of being in that group together as well. And we probably only met once a month, but for a while. And um, we'd have food and talking circles and talk about theory, and it was really wonderful. Um, Also a queer centered group. Um, so yeah, Jay was just like, I'm down. Like, I know you're gonna make something fire. Like, this is about to be lit. Like, let's go. So yeah, just to have like what an incredible first person to get to put my our heads and our hearts together around this. And then I just kept inviting people. At one point, there was a friend, um, an queer Asian woman who joined one of our events, which was fantastic. It was really small. There was like four of us or five of us, or maybe even four. So that was, I think, an early event in Queens where I was living, and where I had a studio. And yeah, that was really fruitful. And I remember she was like, um, and it was really generative because we just talked through ideas and things. She was like, I think this is like a space for only Black women and folks. And so we kind of talked through that in terms of going to the plantation. It wasn't that she was uncomfortable there. Um, in that like I think it was like a 2 day of different like workshops and things that we did. Um, so um yeah. And in terms of the collective, that totally is, you know, was at the soul of the thing. Um, and as a collective, I mean, even just some of our circles, like it's so interesting because all of us are people that out in the world move through very diverse spaces. And all of us are often people that are often like the one Black person at an event or like, you know, one of two or three or whatever, but you get the vibe. And so it really was unique for all of us. Like to look around and be like, oh, this is a space um, that, we see, we understand each other's experiences so deeply, and it just felt so sacred to each and every one of us. Like the how special that was just such a remarkable thing.
Mm.
Mm.
And it sounds like you did workshops and gatherings over a long period of time to kind of build the collective and to understand what you were doing and to formulate your ideas and
Mhm.
kind of come into a strong sense of togetherness on it. Yeah. Huh. And that people were kind of coming in and out of those workshop spaces. Not everyone.
I really encouraged people to stay,
Hmm.
but some people, like I would say in the first 6 to 12 months, um, we probably we had a lot of dinners and talking circles, and then I think we had like two kind of not big events, but just like bigger, like day long or 2-day things. Um, but I'm trying to remember, like Timmy and Jay were there in that first year. Kayla came in and then she left because she was like, I feel like the direction this is moving is for Black women, and that totally was accurate. Um, and then there were three members who came and participated, I want to say from like early, let's say like, yeah, early 2018 to for like a year. Um, and we had quite a few circles and like really formed a bond as a group. And then there was a group rupture that happened, um, which there was a facilitator um, who ultimately I just did not um, stand behind this person's work, but I was still getting to know them. The group was still getting to know them, um, and we were kind of having like preliminary gatherings to see like, okay, how do we all work together? Um, and the core of it was that someone was misgendered and went into just like full like trauma response, was very upset, like didn't want to reconcile it, um, which is their choice, and I trust in how things unfolded. And the misgendering came from the facilitator. And beyond that incident, I do really believe, I think it's important. Well, yeah, I think it's important if we can to um, talk through these things, but I also it wasn't beyond the misgendering. The facilitator had there were just a number of things that like didn't I thought were that they just weren't like solid totally, you know? Um and it didn't seem like um it just became crystal clear in me. I was like, "Oh, I don't want to work with this person either." Um but in that and that was right before we were supposed to have our first retreat. So that ended up not happening. And that was August of 2018. And then I was like licking my wounds because I was so disappointed. Like half the collective left. because they were upset. Then this facilitator, I mean, we parted ways. It just wasn't the alignment was not there. Um, and this is not someone I had worked with in a deep way. So I was still getting to know their work. And I saw as much as I needed to see, enough that it was worth losing money and canceling an event. And I felt solid about that. And then I went off kind of licking my wounds, and I went to I went to California for like a month. And I ended up in this retreat on Mount Shasta with a different group of women, which was um so our Wild Darlings retreat was kind of on pause. I had to like restructure, but then I just kind of like needed to do some soul searching. Um and had an incredible time on Mount Shasta. Um and then the group in New York, when I came back to New York, I just started rebuilding with the members that had stayed, and they kept inviting new people. And then I got like, oh, we need an elder, because the facilitator I had hired was a young woman who was kind of taking on elder energy that she just didn't have, to be totally honest. And it's not to say that young people cannot be completely in their genius. They can, we can. I'm a young person. Like, I'm not, um, but there's just um, it was such fine-tuned energetics, but there was just like funky, funky, funky stuff. She was also like sleeping with some of her students, women students, but like sharing about that. And it was just like, and I don't even want to say that's wrong. I'm like, I'm, uh, yeah, that's not even what was wrong, but the energy is what was wrong. That's like the best I can tell you. Um, but things were adding up. But I knew we needed an elder. So basically with the group, I was like, oh, we need to find an elder. And I was charged with doing it, sure. But um it felt important that I just I realized that, like, how do I say that, like, mm, that it was important to cultivate a listening for what the group wanted,
Mm.
and just keep returning to that. So
Huh.
so yeah, that was a good lesson. And then I also, I was so the first retreat that fell apart, it really like it weighed on me for probably like, I don't know, 2 years or something, a year and a half, 2 years. And I remember I was in a um Vipassana retreat, like the Goenka, that particular style of retreats. I guess it's weird that they're called Vipassana, but Vipassana is just a style of meditation, which seems like poor translation. But I was in the retreat, and I had this like full body realization of like, oh, it's okay to make mistakes. Like
Mm.
it's really okay. And it was so connected to like that thing, and then it just was like it just totally smoothed out. It was okay. Um, but yeah, I was looking for an elder for probably 9 months, a year, until I met Grandma Sangoma. Um, and it's so funny the things that stress us out. Because in retrospect, I was a little stressed about because I was just trying to like, I was like, I got to put these pieces together so we could keep going. And like a friend would recommend a person, would recommend someone else. And Timmy has a uh, former partner who's a dear friend, uh, who's a healer in Atlanta. And oh yeah, he sent us Mother Jaguar. Um, and then yeah, things just came together. Our next retreat, again, the retreat was set to happen now a year later, August of 2019.
Mm.
And come like June, I still don't have facilitators. Okay. But I'm telling you, like, I really trust how I move. I really do. Because that seems crazy. That seems crazy. Like, I'm like, it's like, that seems backwards almost. But, it wasn't, just wasn't, you know? And it was stressful. I would say. But I also knew when I'm like fiercely committed to things, I like, I, I will create the thing. I will do it. So, and I know that, and I knew that. So, but yeah, I didn't know who was going to lead this retreat. And then a friend for years, she had been saying, I think you should meet Grandma Sangoma. I think you guys have work to do together. I didn't really know who she was talking about. So I was like, yeah, introduce us. And then she keeps saying, like, she's in New York, I'll introduce you. So finally, Sangoma is in New York. She's leading a workshop called about undoing racism
Mm.
and something about crossing racial lines. So Timmy and I go. I have the photo when we met her. And the workshop was amazing because, I mean, when Sangoma speaks, it's like, um, she really has a sharp sword, a very sharp sword. Um, and she's also like, yeah, she's a teacher and one of my elders that has also, not all the time, because she's sweet as pie, but on occasion hurt my feelings, which I'm actually proud of because I think it's like good to have. It's like really, really a good thing to have. So that kind of delights me. But we met, told her about the Wild Darlings Collective. She was like, bet, I've been waiting to take Black women into the woods for years. She leads all these wilderness trainings that are combined with like indigenous African spiritual practice and practical magic and these things. But they're never like all well since she's been working with some all Black groups, but at that point she hadn't worked with an all Black group of women. They were always mixed or some predominantly white, um, which is great. But she's like, and also she attested to the fact that like just culturally, there's some resistance to like camping and being dirty in nature for days, and like you might not shower for 5 days or whatever. So the fact that we have this group, we're ready to go, we have this. Oh, we didn't even have a place for the retreat. The retreat was going to happen in August, but we didn't know where. We had two like maybe places, but they weren't right. And then Sangoma was about to teach at Permajam. I don't know if you've heard of this festival um, that happens, um, founded by John Lee Rucker, and I'm sure some many co-collaborators as well. And Sangoma was like, I'm going to teach there. It was like in a few days she was going.
Hmm.
And she was like, you guys should come. So then Timmy had never been camping ever in her life. Now Timmy had, funny enough, like she had done like ceremonies out in the bush in Trinidad and stuff like that. So like, it's not like she was like averse to being in nature, but she had not been camping. Um, so we go to Permajam. I bring my camera, of course, and filmed quite a bit. Timmy led a drum journey because Timmy's is genius. I mean, Timmy's also a genius healer. Um, but she's known for her drum journeys. And so we go. We're the two of us and Sangoma are the only Black people there. I mean, maybe there's one more. I also have to say, a dozens of people called me Timmy and Timmy Nova the whole time, and we did not look alike. So I just have to say, I love y'all. Like, I really do. I love you, but it's like, and I find I can be annoyed by that and laugh at that in the same breath. Like, um, and I want to share some of that because there's like we just need to um and I could also, if someone's upset by that, I also get it, but you know, that's I'm just speaking to my experience. But I also say that to emphasize, like, you know, of like, I don't know, 150 people, there's like 3 Black people. So, but it was fantastic. Oh my God. So many beautiful people. Um, Man, it was such good medicine. It was 4 days. Um, yeah, just praying and doing different workshops and great community meals. And that was really inspiring to me too, because I was like, oh, I want to do that on a plantation. And I still do.
Mm.
Um, so, and at that point, Sangoma, when we met, was like, I'm about to teach at Permajam. Maybe you guys could do your retreat also on that land, because our retreat was going to be like 2 weeks later. So then getting to be at Permajam and talk to everybody, that was how I was able to um, secure that land for us to do our prayer um, just in the nick of time, because it literally was like 2 weeks before. Um, but it all worked out. And then we had a 4-day Wild Darlings retreat there, and that was like, it was so deep. And
Mm.
I thought I was filming a proof of concept, which I guess I was, because that's what I thought I was doing. But so much of that footage is in the movie, which is really
Mm.
cool. We realized later, like, oh no, this is like part of the whole story of this doc. Um, yeah.
Hmm. And how'd you find see, this really important relationship with the land? And then how did you find how did you decide which plantation to go to, or how'd that come into the mix?
I have been looking, I just started making calls and asking people.
Mm.
I'm really good for that, which I think I'm just a natural producer.
Mhm.
So thank God I could produce this myself. I mean, at first, which it wouldn't have happened, otherwise it wasn't going to happen. I mean, now I have producing partners who are so brilliant and who are my two of my best friends, honestly, have become dear friends in this process. Um, one of whom is recovering from a stroke. So I just want to take a moment to
Mhm.
send Todd so much love and light and healing and openness for his recovery in whatever pace he needs to take. Just wishing him so much grace in that. Um, but Todd Carter and Flor Tejada. are my two producing partners. But when I was looking for the plantation initially, they were not on board as producers. So, or maybe Todd was an executive producer. He had given some money to the project, but I was like kind of putting everything together. But I just, I was asking around. One of the women in the group early on had a friend in Louisiana who's like this OG healer who has this farm, and we were maybe going to do it on her land.
Mm.
That would have been dope, I bet, but that didn't happen. And then a filmmaker friend, brilliant filmmaker, Sabah Foloyan, um, who um, she has a few films out, but um, her first film, Whose Streets, was about the Ferguson uprising.
Mm.
So I had asked Abba, and she had maybe known, I can't remember if it was like her family's land or a family friend. So I just kept like asking. That was like old plantation land that was no longer an active plantation. Um, and I think I met a, I met a friend at I think it was the women's retreat I was at on Mount Shasta. Her brother happened to be a huge Hollywood producer. She connected us, and he and oh, I remember now. Michael and I met for coffee. He was so sweet. We didn't like, I'd love to talk to him again, honestly. I should probably email this man as I'm saying this out loud. But we had coffee, and he was like, I want to connect you to the Virginia Film Office because they're
Mm.
from Virginia, and there's so many plantations in Virginia. So I've been looking in Virginia, Mississippi, Georgia, and Louisiana. And so Michael connected me to the Louisiana Film Office. And then then they gave me a tour of like 7 plantations. And they sent me a list, and they were like, this is where we're going to take you. And then I did my own research of them. Um, and then one of them, um, and some of them were like, what's the one, like Montpelier, where there's like, you know, uh, massive plantation. Many things have been filmed there.
Mm.
It's very shiny, you know. It's a museum, so like that's a whole vibe. And for our work, I mean, maybe it could have happened there, but it just like wasn't the right fit. Um, but where we ended up, um, I ended up staying there overnight in a cabin. And then this woman's spirit was talking to me. I
Mm.
literally like went into a trance and like I transcribed everything she was telling me. Unfortunately, I lost that document, I think, unless one day it appears, but that's what happened. That was very striking. That doesn't happen every day. So I was like, okay. Um, so that was fascinating. And then I also was inspired, and I decided to film a performance art thing. So I stayed an extra like day or two at this plantation. And then I connected with these students from the university there, film students. And again, the Virginia Film Office had because I was just like, I was looking for someone to help me film. Um so they connected me with this group of lovely young Black women, and I filmed this performance art thing that didn't turn out the way I wanted, which was fine, but it was a really good experience. But I say all this to say, like, there was just a lot, like, I was inspired to, like, make this performance art piece immediately upon being there. Like, I had this, like, channeling come through, like, so and then the land also just felt so lush and inviting. Um, there is a lot of darkness there, I have to say, but, but it's also beautiful land. It's a very lush land. Um, and the spirit of the woman that was communicating with me, she just wanted her story, she just wanted to share. It wasn't, as far as I can remember, what I remember is, like, she was telling me, like, things about her life and
Mm,
experiences.
wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm. I mean, it's like the all those pieces being in that land would be such a strong indicator. Like that was a place where the land was speaking to you and the spirits who were on that land were speaking to you, and there was so much creativity, and so much coming togetherness, and like people who could be helpful and understood.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's such like as you're describing it, this journey, it's like it's I can it's such a journey. It kind of reminds me of some of the journeys that about how I came to do some of the work I'm doing now. I'm like, well, it's like a multi-year process, and there was a lot of different stages and a lot of different people, and some people who I've never don't talk to anymore were like really, really important, and yeah, and it's and I can tell as you're telling, like by the time the the collective ended up going to the plantation, which is not the only collective that there ever was. By the time you got there, like the level of just I can just imagine that the level of just in some ways like joy that comes from trust and comes from togetherness and comes from working on something for a long time, and that comes from like really making sure that every step is like pretty secure and like in a felt way,
Mhm.
um, like was really there. And I think that's one of the things that really struck me in watching your promo was um, you have so many shots that are really intimate and
Mhm.
and I think are like really hard. Like I mean, I've done just a little tiniest bit of filming and like really hard to have the level of like emotional and like just intimacy that with a camera in your face, like, or even behind the camera, like either way, right? It can be challenging for a lot of people. And I don't feel that from your shots at all. I don't feel that there's resistance. I just feel like there's like this sort of togetherness with the camera and with the viewer. And I can hear how all the work you did, the time and the care before you got there, plays a role in enabling that to happen. As well as your just complete adoration of the camera and complete love of filming, which also I'm sure really helps. And so, like, obviously, like, as the film when the film fully comes out, much of this will become really clear, but just is there 1 or 2 stories you just wanna share about what was it like to do this healing ritual? Do a series it wasn't just one thing, it was a series of things, you staying there for a period of time. Um, to kind of be on that land together and to pray with the land, like, what was is there 1 or 2 stories about what that was like for you collectively as a whole, and for you yourself um, to be in it?
You know, well, first I just wanna say thanks, thanks for the acknowledgement about um, just how intimate the footage feels,
Mhm.
yeah, I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I mean, we are all very, very comfortable with one another. And there is such a profound amount of trust. Um, the plantation, the plantation was so many things. It was so many things. Um, yeah, there was tears, there was yelling, there was laughter, song, dance, play, like there was just everything. Um, it For me, it was wrapped up in like directing the whole movie, which directing a movie is really a wild thing. I mean, first of all, it's kind of psychedelic film sets. I find, um, no matter where you are. So then to be on this very, very charged land,
Mm.
doing work that is actively like making it more charged and changing the charge. Um, and we realized through the process that like some of the spirits on the land were like, well, first of all, I mean, I can't remember if I said this before. We saw the spirits watching us, watching what
Uh,
we were doing, standing in a line. I'll never forget that. Yeah, I will never forget that. Standing in a line, watching it with such curiosity. Um, so like that was such a huge moment. Then we did one ceremony, and well, another ceremony that was really um just yeah, very healing, I would say. I guess there's a lot of words I could use, but we did a ceremony, a fire ceremony, reading um names of some of the people that were enslaved on that land.
mm,
And also acknowledging or just feeling into, yeah, acknowledging that they had names before those given names that are
mm.
documented. And we, yeah, spoke out loud prayers for them, to them, um, sang for them, and we just grieved on. I mean, we were all just sobbing that whole ceremony, and drumming and crying. And that was really one of the most powerful moments of the whole 10 days there. Um, and so yeah, it was great. There were moments where I totally dropped in like that, and where we were all really dropped in. And then there were moments where we were running around because like we had to do the next thing because like it was also a film shoot, and it was a tight film shoot because you know film shoots are quick like that because you're spending so much money every extra hour or day you're filming, you're spending a lot more money. Um so we moved at a brisk pace, but then when we got to ceremony we were slow, so it was just like it was such a we were in so many different energies. And if we were not in a ceremony, I was moving at like like, and I had so much fun. Like I really am meant to be a director, but like people were, I was answering people's questions. Like the questions never stopped. Like I'm walking to get food. I sit down, like more questions as I'm walking somewhere, more questions that, just nonstop, 10 days up at, we were working like, at least 12-hour days. We'd be lucky, but some days were like a 13-hour day.
Mm.
Or
And you
14
really
hours.
it sounds like you really had a solid plan. Came in. You knew what you were looking for. You knew what you were trying to do, or was it like really emergent or kind of a combination?
It was a combination. It was a
Oh,
combination. We
yeah.
we tried to schedule it, but also with ceremony, like you can't
Yeah,
always
right.
do that. It just won't always work. So, um, one ceremony became a completely different thing than what was planned. Um, yeah, there were many shifts and changes. Like the fire ceremony where we were reading the names only happened because one of Todd and Mother Jaguar found these names in like the archives of the plantation.
Hmm.
And so, and that was like, it was so random because it was like early one morning we like did this fire ceremony. It was not on the schedule. And it was like one of the deepest things that happened. So, you know, things like that. But then, we had these performance art pieces as well. And those were very much scheduled. Um, so yeah, well, I mean, honestly, it's fascinating to me to combine the structure of a film set with multiple days of ceremonies. It's like, how's that gonna work, But but it worked. It took, for the most part, and this is what I'm learning that my creative practices and business and everything just needs, is like to be um to be in the pocket of the schedule, right? Like with like um how do I say? Like taking on showing up powerfully to the schedule, right? And having a plan, like being clear about what each thing needs and all the sub plans and all that, and having everything on the calendar. And then also being available for when something different really does need to happen. And like the wisdom is to like flow with what's present. So yeah, that was the dance. That was the dance.
Hmm. It was, I mean, like, even just in the short promo that I've seen, I can tell that healing happened. Even that little short, whatever, 5 minutes that is, I
Hmm.
can see that it was a profound experience for all of you, that some real healing like did happen, that the collective left in a different space than when they arrived. And that really powerful things happen on the land. And
Absolutely.
the land itself was an active player in this process, as which we should expect. Um, and just like, is there anything about that for people? Because we're talking about this before the film is fully produced, and fully out there. So, is there anything about what does it mean to do ancestral healing work like this that you've learned or you want to share with folks who are looking to do their own ancestral healing work, either with their own ancestors or with our larger collective, the legacies of colonization, like what, and I'm sure we could talk for 5 hours just on this topic alone, but what is something that you might like to share with others about what does it mean to engage in this bigger, to do ritual to enable these bigger healing spaces for the land as well as for ourselves?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Um, I feel like it requires a tremendous amount of compassion
Mm.
and
For everyone.
for everyone, for everyone. I think for for the people we feel hurt by most or have one point feel hurt by the most. Um, because I think we have a tendency of like dehumanizing people that hurt us. And um I think like ancestral healing work, my first instinct was to say that like it is painful, but like I don't mean that in a negative way. And I think that pain doesn't have to be like dense always or like tight, even though sometimes it is. But like yeah, like I think even what's coming up is like someone, you might be having sex and there's a moment of pain and it's not a bad pain. And so, or like even a pleasurable pain or a pain that makes way to more pleasure or something. And or swap that out for like a different example. You could be getting body work and there's pain, right? And for a moment, right? When something's getting like worked out or whatever. So, um, but yeah, ancestral healing, I think that the compassion kind of like um makes the pain like kind of wider and smoother and more and softer and like more malleable. And so then it kind of becomes a different thing. It's not pain anymore. So I think that about it. I mean, someone that yeah, like what is ancestral work asking of us? I mean, I think it's asking of us to look at the places that hurt or ache or that we're afraid to look at. Um, like, I mean, part of my healing journey, just having been through so much, um, or having experienced so much sexual abuse and being prostituted by my step grandfather and um, all of that pain, like for me to, there was a first step of just like integrating that in my body and like digesting it and being okay with it and just holding it. So there wasn't like a split of part of me trying to reject that and not hold it. It's like, all of me just holds this. Um, so that's been, and I feel like our personal pain is like in conversation with, and or a personal trauma is in conversation with ancestral trauma. And so, yeah, to do ancestral work, I think we could also just look at in our own lives what hurts. That's really what I'm trying to say. Um, yeah, because yeah, just really um being okay with all that pain. Then I feel like I had to do that for myself to then look at my ancestors' pain. That's the thing, and be like, and see them as people who were complex and had ways they expressed genius and creativity and ways they suffered and struggled and um yeah. I've been reflecting a lot lately on I think in terms of like epigenetic trauma, I think really like attachment is at the core of it, attachment and attunement. So that's where my attention has really been lately. And it's still work that I practice. Like sometimes I've been working with a Buddhist teacher um who whose coursework combines Tibetan Buddhism with developmental psychology. Um, so I've been in that training for like, I don't know, 9 months now or something. And that has been rocking my world. It's been fantastic. I have been doing so much work with my infant self in the past year that has been incredibly deep. And so that's um I bring this up because through that I get these like ancestral messages to like it like one like when that healing happens, I then there's like this forgiveness and compassion that gets extended to my ancestors because I'm giving that to myself. So yeah.
So the incredible power of these multi levels of compassion and letting that compassion go really, really deep. Like letting yourself just go in layers upon layers upon layers of compassion.
But I feel like it's so important to get quiet too. I actually really want to say that because some of the deepest experiences I've had, which again, I feel like it's going into the pain of like my own attachment wounding in infancy, like then has opened up like healing with like that my mother and then her line and like all you know what I mean? So like that I feel like that's been a main entry point. But it's been um not always. Sometimes it's just in my day-to-day life, but I've found meditation retreats where like I'm in complete silence for 10 days or 3 days or whatever it is. Um, but it could even be the quiet of you're on a retreat with people just out on land and deep in work. Like we just need those we need less about I'm not saying like complete silence, right? But just like cutting out the noise. That's really important too. Really, really important.
To cutting out the noise in order to let yourself see what's there for you as well as to work with to have that compassion deepen.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. Mm. Mm. That's beautiful. Thank you, Tova. I'm really looking forward to your film coming out. I know you're in final stages of production and fundraising, and so if we will have access or we'll have links for people if they want to in the show notes to donate to the film, um,
Please.
to the final production stage. Um, and I'm really like I can't wait till I get to see this, the whole thing. Really looking forward to it, and it's just such a pleasure to meander with you on this and to get just the tiniest glimpse into this incredible creative journey. And I hear just um, that in the Quaker tradition I come from, we talk about faithfulness to a calling. And I really hear that. I hear that kind of that both that openness to what's emerging, as well as the steadfastness in like engagement. Um, it wasn't like everything just all came together really quickly. But in the process, everyone got to go through this incredible formation process, right? You got formed together,
Yeah.
and with like so much more potent, perhaps. We don't really know, but it's what happened, and we can trust that.
Really. Really. It added a lot of spice. You need some spice.
Yeah. Yeah, and, thank you for doing this work, thank you for, yeah, I feel like you did something for yourself, and you did something for all of us, um, and may all of us find ways of going deeper into those ritual, collective and individual rituals that can bring us closer to the land and bring us closer to ancestral healing processes.
Hmm. Yes.
Mm. So pay attention to those visions. Even if they seem crazy at the time, especially.
Right.
Well,
Thank you
thank
so
you again.
much.
Mm.
I'm excited to get to be with you around a fire sometime soon.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to the Remembering and ReEnchanting podcast. If you are enjoying what you are hearing, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. I am always happy to hear from you, dear listener, to continue finding ways to connect the disconnected and go deeper on your own journey of remembering and reenchanting with your communities, your organizations, and your families. I invite you to check out our courses and other community offerings via the Sequoia Summit Via website. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Though I must admit I spend much more time working with really amazing people than crafting social media. If you want to work with me one-on-one or bring me to speak at your organization or family office, you can find out more at sarajolena.com.